All right, once again, welcome on day number 7, reading through 1st and 2nd Kings. Today is chapters number 13 and 14. A brief recap of the previous video. We observed Solomon's failure, in so much that not only did he take 1,000 women to be his wives and companions, but he also, because of their influence, there was some incorporation of their gods as well, these women from foreign places. Solomon failed in that sense. He died. His son Rehoboam became king, but the kingdom split. All of the excess that we had read to begin this book of Solomon finally caught up with the monarchy, as Rehoboam, rather than making life easier on the people, elected to make life more difficult, and it was ripe for Jeroboam to take a majority of the kingdom away from Rehoboam. So, in today's reading, it's going to be a shorter video. Readings are quite unique today, but concise, nevertheless. Rehoboam and Jeroboam are going to be dealt with. First, Jeroboam here in chapter number 13. Jeroboam, he is offering sacrifices at the altar, and a prophet is going to visit him. The prophet's going to give an interesting oracle that God had raised Jeroboam up, that he wouldn't be where he was, having been able to even split the kingdom if not for God. However, he is no David, and he's not worthy to continue a leadership post. And so, David, who is a character of contrasting features, and Jeroboam isn't even that. Evidently, there's nothing of substance to say about Jeroboam. Through this chapter, you'll read there's an interesting dialogue between two prophets, and the one prophet dies because the prophet who came to warn Jeroboam didn't even follow his word from God. And so with all of this, it's supposed to show at the end of this chapter 13 how serious God is, and that Jeroboam better take it seriously, but he's not going to take it seriously, it says. Part of the problem down in the latter part of chapter 13 is Jeroboam's in his evil ways. He's appointing common people as priests at the high places. Remember, what Saul's great sin was that he did not conduct sacrifice appropriately, that he was supposed to wait for Samuel. He was supposed to wait for a priest. But he took matters in his own hands. This is kind of what's going on with Jeroboam. He's taking the priesthood in his own hands. When common people are appointed, what this means is people who did not have the right to the priesthood. There's probably bribery going on. It's politics. The institution of the priesthood had become political at this point. Interestingly, it was the same in Jesus' day, and that's part of why he is confronting the powers that be in Jerusalem. In the next scene, Jeroboam's son is going to become ill. There's going to be another prophet that is injected in this story. This is the prophet that actually compares Jeroboam to David, not the previous chapter. My apologies for that confusion. But even so, that this prophet is, like the previous prophet, is going to alert Jeroboam that there's going to be trouble. And Jeroboam goes on to die. His 22 years as ruler ends up as the only significance, the only legacy was that he split a kingdom. So now that Jeroboam has been dealt with, what's going to happen to Rehoboam? Well, Rehoboam's got issues as well. They're religious issues. His issues are worse than that of ancestors. There's this idea of building themselves high places and sacred pillars. This is probably for cultic kind of practices to other gods. They're building memorials and altars to other gods. In fact, what else is going on, it says, is that there's male cultic prostitutes in the land. Many of these pagan religions had sexual rituals, and it appears that that's what is being incorporated now, even in the land of Judah, which was the true part of the Davidic dynasty. Just as a brief footnote, since this is a shorter video, here I mentioned the pagan prostitution part of their religious practice. It's some of these sexual elements that remained from the ancient Near East, even into the 1st century, and throughout the Mediterranean world, that Paul was addressing. And so in early Christian character, when sexual ethics are being addressed in places such as the city of Corinth, their whole view of sexuality would be different than ours with our background. To them, it was very common for sexuality and prostitution to have converged with religion, and that was part of the early church's challenging task to uproot these cultural contexts and replace it with something that was a bit more pure. Well, this is going on here and amongst the people of Judah, the 2 tribes of the Davidic dynasty. It's not going to last. Egypt is going to come and fight, and they are going to be successful at hauling all of these treasures that were in the temple and the palace. All of this wealth that Solomon had accumulated is going to be taken away to Egypt. Now that's bad enough. However, we reading it, we understand that there's long-standing history with Egypt. Egypt represents the bondage and slavery that the Hebrews had been in. They never get away from that idea. That's always there and pertinent. And so that's adding injury to insult. And so the Rehoboam's reign ends at that point, and life moves on. And Rehoboam's legacy was he was the one who continued a social atmosphere that was unhealthy, both economically as well as religiously, and he was very much responsible as well in his choices for dividing the kingdom. And so, with that, I will meet you again tomorrow.